the audio not playing on this?
Well,
Sick.
hey guys, is the audio not playing?
It worked before.
Turn it
Is the
up.
audio not playing on this? Mom!
My headphones. Yo, I turn up my headphones.
You know, you play a video, and for those of you that are familiar with StreamYards, it mutes everybody automatically, and the video plays. But I noticed that like everyone's audio is still coming through, and I was like, "What? What's happening?" So I thought I had a good joke, you know, young Frankenstein, werewolf, werewolf. Anyways, if you've seen it, you know the joke. Anyways, guys, welcome to the always excellent and fantastic review show with myself, Sean, and Chris down there on the bottom.
Chris.
We were all here when the very first Werewolf by Night trailer dropped at, was that D23 or Comic-Con? It was D23.
Comic-Con.
Right? It was Comic-Con?
Comic-Con? D23?
D23?
Yeah.
D23
Yeah.
Comic-Con? One of those things.
It was at a Disney thing, yeah. Anyways, well, I think the only thing we got at
D23. It was D23 because it was the same day as Secret Invasion,
right.
which,
Yes.
like as far as like the only way we can really gauge excitement is kind of like trailer reaction, like type stuff. And Werewolf by Night was triple like any of our other content. Like people are hyped for this show, this special presentation.
And you know, in honor of what we're usually doing right now, which is our Swift Wings Speakeasy on Friday nights, which is chaotic and unstructured and whatever the hell we want it to be. We just thought we'd start off with a bang, which is running 10 minutes late and having a technical error to boot, but it can only go up from here. So spoiler warning, you see it down under Sean that way. There it is.
Yeah.
There it is. And next to Chris right there. We are going to be talking full spoilers. And there's a couple things to spoil, but like most of it's been hinted at in the trailers, but there's context, I guess, that's different. You get a little bit more of what's going on there. But regardless, let us know. We're hoping you've seen it if you're here. Alan Smith, he said, just finished the show. ManThing, interesting. Yeah, Michael Giacchino's directorial debut. We know he has composed Doctor Strange, the entire Spider-Man MCU trilogy, the Batman. Is Giacchino also Incredibles? I think he is.
Yes, he is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So really, really great track record. Wanted to dip his toe into directing, and I think the guy did all right. But we're going to talk about it.
I think The Incredibles was actually Giacchino's very first foray into like superhero work.
Yeah.
Because since then, I during the Schmodown, I went through and I was making lists of composers, right, for MCU, for this, that, the other. John Williams is the GOAT. He has like 35 scores for all of the IG list. I was just doing IG lists. Jerry Goldsmith was up there. Hans Zimmer is up there. But they have resumes dating back to the 70s, right?
Right.
Giacchino, since 2004, has knocked out like 25 scores
at least
of IG movies. Like, it's crazy how much work he's been putting in across, like, you know, Star Trek. You got The Incredibles. You got a bunch of Marvel films. He's just been putting in work. He's all over the place.
And Scott About is asking what spoilers. Well, we're going to talk about, you know, Man-Thing was in the trailer. We're going to talk about the Bloodstone family and some, but that's kind of, you know, I'd say that's the majority of it. I think the first thing I want to talk about is how did you guys feel about the tone and this being kind of not only just a different tone, both visually and with the story, but a different type of storytelling, a special, you know.
Trailer, we knew that it was going to be very Universal Monster-esque, you know, like that vibe, and it definitely came through with that Marvel flair. That's definitely something I was not disappointed in, was the aesthetic, the tone, and just the overall vibe of the hour special that we got. I kind of wanted more. I said halfway through watching this, like, damn, I wish this was like a little mini series. because this would have been really cool to explore more of, and hopefully we can do that more in the future.
I would love like a Marvel's Black Mirror with like Giacchino or just some other directors,
like an anthology thing,
yeah,
but like have nothing to do with anything else.
Maybe you could get Guillermo del Toro to commit to doing one thing. Be like, I'll come and do a 1 hour short. You know,
it's like boom, give him the Man-Thing origin story.
Yeah,
man, that'd be cool. But I don't know if Guillermo would want to do the fun, cute Man-Thing that we got in this, the lovable Man-Thing.
I mean, in all fairness, he was only lovable if you're friends with him.
That's true. Otherwise,
or friendly with him.
Yeah. Otherwise, so I mean, let's talk about the story a little bit. We got they did keep it really vague. They gave us like one trailer and like a TV spot, which, you know what, that's the way to do it.
Yeah,
entice me, get me interested, and then just let me wait. So there was Ulysses Bloodstone, who seemed to be like the kind of the leader, or the man behind a group of monster hunters, and this is really our first kind of foray into monster hunting in the MCU, something that we're going to get a lot more of with Blade and hopefully some other dark characters, not considered Ghost Rider or monster hunter of sorts, just with demons and things. So It's cool to see them go into this corner of the MCU. Anyways, Ulysses, I keep trying to call him Ulysses Claw, but Ulysses Bloodstone has passed. And they're having like a Hunger Games of sort, survivor for this Bloodstone, because it grants extended life and power and all these other things. So we get Elsa Bloodstone, the daughter, who has lost her birthright after kind of leaving the family, but wants to earn the stone back. And then we have our lead, Jack Russell, has been tossed into the fray. And yeah, the irony is not past me that Jack Russell is a dog.
Is a dog, exactly. Yeah. He's a terrier.
Yeah. So anyways, that's kind of the premise kicking off here. And I gotta say, just like the campiness of it was really working for me. I was having a good time with it, but I want to know what you guys are thinking going into it, or expectations versus what we ended up getting.
Here, Sean, go ahead.
I didn't know what to expect. I'm not well versed in much horror, much less the old Hammer horror style. Black and white, Frankenstein, Wolfman, The Mummy, like all those older films. I've just not seen them. They're just not in my repertoire. So I didn't know what to expect, but they did a good job at modernizing it enough. And because I think a lot of older films like those, like where they were drawing inspiration from, it has to do, it's not just about the black and whiteness and the story, it's also about the acting style of stuff from the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, 70s. Like if you go back and watch, even like Star Wars, like if you watch,
Almost
A New Hope
versus like,
there's different styles of just presenting dialogue and stuff like that. And so this felt very modern in the sense of acting and that type of stuff, but it did have a little campy nature where they were like doing it up and it was over the top and stuff like that. But it worked for me. It was all good. It wasn't too much. It wasn't too crazy, and it worked for the spooky story we're trying to tell type of thing. And if you're a fan of the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland, like you could easily like see like ooh, like that type of stuff, and you can get on board with it. That's the story they're trying to tell.
Little bloodier than the typical, like the Hammer horror style. Like we said, our Marvel, this is a Marvel special presentation, so we're gonna have our little, like, especially towards the end, and I don't want to jump too far ahead, but the end was 100% Marvel Studios like attempted comedy, and to me, it worked, but I know for a lot of folks it may not necessarily. But I love how it was just put together. Like, and I know I was playing kind of coy when we were talking about this before the stream started. I love this thing.
Oh, okay.
I love every second of this. I'm a big
even in the group chat, he's like, I have thoughts. What thoughts?
Yeah, I loved every minute of this. I'm a big Wolfman guy. I think that he's my favorite of the Universal monsters.
Okay.
And I'm a big like Teen Wolf dude, so this is my cup of tea. Like, there's no way I wasn't gonna at least like this. And they showed it in the trailer. I love the transformation scene. you know, like at least
Yeah.
how they did it. We didn't see it, not too much, like, but just the reveal of Gael as, you know, the Wolfman or the werewolf, you know, super damn cool. This whole thing was just super
really
well
was.
constructed. Who gives a shit about the other little monster hunters that were there? And like the special didn't care because they didn't give them names.
No,
but they
had
gave
names
to
on
people
paper,
who matter.
Yeah,
right. They had names on paper, but like in the credits, they only credited like 4 people.
Right.
So like it's we got names in time with the people that mattered, like Elsa and Jack. But damn, I was pissed off that it ended. I was sad that we only got less than an hour of this.
Yeah, I wish this was the beginning. Even if, like, I mean, I definitely want more Werewolf by Night, specifically, like, more with Jack and more with Elsa. But, like, I honestly just want more of this style, you know? Like we're saying, anthology series and stuff like that. Is there any characters, I can throw a question out to the chat. Is there any characters that you think would be really fitting for something like this? Maybe ones that are lesser well known that might not get, like, the cinematic treatment that you'd like to dive into?
I like what It's Scott About says in the chat, that Marvel got away with the gore because it was in black and white.
Right.
There wasn't too much anyway, you know? And the little bits of color, like the Heartstone? What was it?
Bloodstone.
Yes, the Bloodstone.
The Bloodstone, I love that was the only piece of color about the whole thing. And until the very end with the Elsa shot, which I loved. Like the I thought it was a way of them,
very
like,
on the nose, but it was cute.
I thought it was like a way of them to like slingshot this into not present day, but because we have an idea of where this takes place, but we don't have like a pinpoint. They don't ever say the date or the year or anything, and I like that. I like that.
It felt very detached, and I feel like it started off with like an image of the Avengers, and it closed with them in color. So I feel like 50 minutes of this was very self-encapsulating, and then they like started and ended it with hints at being part of the bigger MCU, and I hope so. We've gone galactic, we've done political thrillers and stuff like that. I would love to get more horror-esque storytelling. I mean, Blade definitely should have that vibe.
I saw, again, it's Scout About. What's going on? It's Scout About in the chat, talking about giving Giacchino damn Blade now, since Blade lost its director. And I do not hate that idea at all, especially watching this. The action was
what
super
a great
well
debut.
Done. Yes. Like, you know, and only focusing on those 2 characters, at least primarily, and Elsa and Jack, you get to, you know, really like flesh them out a little bit. And they got to spend some time together, which I thought was really cute. And then the big like wolf stuff happens, which you all wanted to see. It took a while, but we got there. And it was like that. They kind of had like the one little hand we saw extend a la American Werewolf, but just with CGI.
Right.
But I love the prosthetics of everything too.
I love how practical so much of it was. And even like, so when we first got our look at Man-Thing, or Ted, I'm going to call him Teddy.
Yes.
It was definitely very CGI, which with everything else not being, it stood out. But then by the time we got to the end, it looked like just a maybe CGI enhanced practical suit. And I think I was reading somewhere that actually the person that stood in or like was in the costume for Black Chrysanthemum on Book of Boba Fett was Man-Thing.
Yeah, I looked up the cast earlier, and it was the same guy who played both. So yeah, there definitely was some sort of physical presence on set, and they did such a great job with the eyes, because you could see when he's going after people, you know, just disintegrating people inside the maze or the garden or whatever. But then as soon as she walks up to him and goes, "No, Ted," and you could see him like immediately calm down, and you could see it in his eyes, the way he's like, "All right, I'm not going to murder you."
Especially like the character not being able to speak English per se, like the Man-Thing or Ted, Man-Ted.
Right.
Ted Thing emoted a ton. And like for us to really buy the fact that this monster that they're hunting, and Jack, who's been apparently protecting him for however so long,
right?
You know, that like they have this rapport, and I bought it. And big props to Gaia. Like, it's not this real big, like oh my gosh, this is the best performance in the MCU. It wasn't that.
No, but it's very charming.
Yes, and I fell in love with Jack and Gael Garcia Bernal. Like he just brought something extra to this, and I want to know how much time he actually got to spend under the little wolf hairs. Like I'm willing to assume that a decent amount of that was him, because that's what I mean. But I don't know for sure. I want an assembled of this. I want to watch the making of this.
Which, once again, the eyes too. That was the one thing about it. Whether, no matter how much prosthetics was on top, you could see it in his eyes, especially when he was face to face with Elsa. That was interesting. I thought it was funny too, the practical effects or just however they rigged up the animatronics. I want to know if, like, I was watching New Rockstars earlier, and something Eric Foss brought up. He's like, did he actually have his body like put on a crank, or did he make like a prosthetic? Like,
I'm not sure, but like,
how
if
long
it
has he
is
been dead?
A reanimated corpse, I'm just imagining Elsa there. I'm like, that's traumatizing.
And that was what gave me the vibe that it wasn't him, that it wasn't the corpse.
Because she wasn't reacting.
Yeah, because Aisha wasn't reacting. Granted, she was very stone faced at the beginning of it for obvious reasons. But then there was like you saw like you saw that it was put together. Like you saw like little holes or little like slits that made it all animatronic and stuff. But again, talk about charming. That off the bat, I'm like, I love this. Like, this is what I want. Like, talk about that campy stuff. That's it. I was here for it.
And even her from the beginning is when she first, I believe her name was Uressa, I think was the caretaker person's
Verussa
name.
With a V,
Verussa, yeah, right.
Yeah.
She goes, "Oh, you left. How do you think you could handle this without training?" And she goes, "Without his training." So who have you been training with? So, right? Like, there's like backstory to her. It's like, oh, where has she been? Who has she been fighting monsters with? You know,
for the record,
with Van Helsing, with Blade, like who, I don't know who other characters, monster characters in the Marvel universe, but there's a lot of backstory there. Hanging out with Morbius, huh? Hanging out in the Spamunka
in the spunk, yeah,
the spunk furnace.
Elsa Bloodstone's actually a playable character in Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 on Nintendo Switch, and that game's kind of fun.
All right.
But kind of fun?
Yeah, it's just like, I thought it was super fun, and then I played Diablo, which is actually like a more proper dungeon crawler, and I was like, man, yeah, Ultimate Alliance 2 was better like 15 years ago.
Like I know like the chat and like all of us are already thinking, okay, where can we see them next? But like, just before we jump to, let's see more Jack. Like,
jump.
Right, and don't get me wrong, I'm jonesing for more Jack in this, and I've already been thinking of where we can see him, like, and how the whole wolf thing makes him not age, because this might take place in the 80s, 70s, wherever the hell it takes place. But the story itself, it was super self-contained. Who gives a shit about the other monster hunters? But it was just really, really sweet to see these one-off. Like, it was one extended episode of television,
Right.
Like how we've been getting all these shows, like all the She-Hulks and WandaVisions and stuff. It was just one long episode.
Unless it's a Ring of Power, then it's a shorter episode.
Right.
Ring of Power is like an hour 10 every week.
We'd be like 50 minutes now. My proposition when we got to the end of it, I looked at Lauren. I was like, you know what I would love if they planned ahead enough is to get 4 or 5 weeks, like either like starting maybe with the last week of September, and every week we get an episode of a different story that's all spooky based, all something on the darker side of the MCU. So it would just be 4 or 5 episodes, limited series, but hour long. Super cool.
Well, so Giacchino said in an interview that he pitched this to Feige like 4 years ago. This was in process 2 years before all the stuff happened, all the crazy stuff happened, and so all that got put on hold. And then they had to wait a year, and then a year into it, they're like, "Hey, we can start filming things again. Do you want to get the ball rolling once again?" So this has been in process for a hot minute, and I think this was more of like a proof of concept, to be honest, because it has been so well received, so highly rated, and hopefully well watched. I don't know if we'll ever find out the numbers.
Marketing was a little weak. I'm glad they didn't bombard us with a whole bunch of different trailers, but I, who was looking forward to it, had to keep being reminded that it was this week. Sure. And I was like, that's not good. If your target audience is confused about when your show's coming, or like it's sneaking up on them, you might need to market it more.
Maybe, but I would still like to see like this. Like I said, proof of concept. This could be something that happens next year. In the lead up to Halloween, right? With the finale airing the week of Halloween or something like that. Do a 4-episode series, 40 minutes each, or something like that.
Right.
I think that'd be for the month of October, basically just one each week in October. I think that'd be really cool. And yeah, if you wanted to get different directors involved too, give Giacchino the finale, give like Guillermo del Toro the season premiere, get
Guillermo
these
directed Blade too. Like there's nothing.
He's down for superheroes.
Yeah, and 2 Hellboy movies. So like I don't know why he would say no.
Let's bring back Stephen Norrington. He's been in Hollywood jail since the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen came out, but he did Blade 1 in '98. He could come back.
Yeah.
The comment about not being released closer to Halloween, this is already going to get lost in the shuffle. Like, sure. I do agree that this release date wasn't the best because it's right before She-Hulk's finale. So like we're going to be talking about this for a week until She-Hulk comes out, and shit, it's already going to get drowned out because of all the Daredevil stuff. Spoiler alert. But it's and then you got Andor. There's only so many Latinos you can put on Disney Plus at once, and so it's
or can we just make it Latino Plus? Because like I'm pretty down for it. The man crushes I have on Pedro Pascal, Diego Luna, and this man who helped me with the name again,
Gael Garcia Bernal.
Yeah,
it's Hector from Coco.
Right, that's what Lauren was saying. She's like, I know him from these 5 rom-coms and Coco. Like, well, he's doing great. He's
un poco loco, exactly. Yeah. But this whole little special was just, again, one long episode where you establish who these characters are, and it's weird that it just like happened, like the ending happened. It kind of gave me the idea that they're going to do more with this character, maybe, hopefully. Blade.
I hope so.
Blade. I was super happy with it, and I find rewatchability in this. Like I almost wanted to just pop it right back on and just get engulfed in this world again.
Giacchino.
Thank you.
Giacchino.
I'm sorry, Giacchino.
Giacchino.
The A is silent apparently, and the H.
Amongst other letters.
Yeah. And one of the C's.
But the fact that this is Giacchino's first like thing in directing is very impressive, especially amongst the Marvel machine. That I know people complain that directors, they just go to Marvel and they do the same movie that Marvel wants them to make. This is not another Marvel thing, with the exception of the end. This is not just another Marvel thing, in my opinion. I think this sticks out like a sore thumb amongst the filmography.
I think it cracks me up a little bit that that is the complaint, right? Is that directors just go through the Marvel machine, and then we get Multiverse of Madness, and it's maligned by a large portion of people. I was like, well, that was it. That was your director's movie, like right.
That was Sam Raimi. Yep.
Maybe they picked the wrong director.
But I mean, it's an argument for
Giacchino should have done that.
And take it or leave it, Chris. Eternals is 100% a Chloe Zhao movie, and to that end, Iron Man 3 is more of a Shane Black movie than it is a Marvel movie. So I rebuke the notion that directors just get put into this cog. I think there's examples where maybe yes, that's true. I don't think the Captain Marvel directors necessarily had a unique vision in mind. I think there's some things that are really fun in that, but like there's nothing there that's like, oh yes, this is a directorial choice of style, And
well, so it's also a conflict of interest, like what you just said, right? With Eternals and with Iron Man 3, those are definitely on the bottom half of we love those amongst the Marvel fandom. Like maybe it's a good thing Marvel has a formula, because a lot of these movies are, we love them.
I think they just need to play the field. I need some they're getting condemned either way, but sometimes you have to make a safe choice. A John Watts. I think he is not stylistically the most impressive director, but he is pumped out consistent, enjoyable content. I think Homecoming, Far From Home, and definitely No Way Home are all very enjoyable films.
But would you call those John Watts movies?
John Hughes movies.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, John Hughes.
That's why I'm saying John Watts is on the safe end.
Yeah. Right.
He's one side. You have to, one for them, one for me. You have to have some of those, and then try your hand at some Sam Raimi's, some Chloe Zhao's, some Michael Giacchino's. So I like this, and I know a lot of people are poo-pooing Phase 4 of the MCU, but win or lose, I get very excited about everything that's coming out because this is the least it's felt like a machine. I know it's pumping out content like a machine as far as speed goes, but I'm feeling a lot more individual styles now than maybe before. And like I said, I think Love and Thunder's good. I think it's fun. It's not the best Marvel movie, but it's definitely a Taika movie.
Right.
Shit. Yeah. For better or for worse. Yeah. But you're totally correct in the idea of Phase 4. It's they're taking risks, right? We're watching a female-led sitcom of sorts in She-Hulk, right? We're still doing that. We got one more of those. We have this Giacchino project that is straight,
She-Hulk's unique too. It's a lot of fun.
Sure.
Right, we got this Giacchino horror project that's ripped straight from the 40s with a little bit of Kevin Feige sprinkled in, right? And you got the Kung Fu movie that came out last year. You have a bunch of other projects that stick out, and maybe it's just the the amount of content we've been getting.
Sure.
And maybe it's how different these swings have been, and maybe that applies to where all the Phase 4 hate comes from. I don't get it personally. I've been really enjoying Phase 4 with some projects more than others, but still, not every phase is perfect. Oh my god! Let's not act like phases 1 through 3 are perfect as they are. Let's not. Where
was all the internet bros in Phase 1 going? Where is this leading? You'll find out on the 6th movie.
It's like when Thor: The Dark World came out, and for some people it was Iron Man 3 and Thor: The Dark World. For some of us, back to back. Nobody was like, "Oh, Marvel's at its end." And when Winter Soldier came out, everyone was there for it. Guardians came out, everyone was there for it. But now it's like one divisive movie, and the internet falls apart.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it was. I think if they continue to live in the world of the MCU, meaning use the MCU's events as history, the same way we live in our world, and if someone comes out with a biopic, you use world events as history. That doesn't mean you need a crossover every time.
No.
Right? If you're doing a story about Lincoln, do a story about Lincoln. If you're doing a story about World War II, do a story about World War II. You don't have to cross over with all of the other world figures that were happening during those times unless they're important to the story you're telling. And the same thing with the MCU, specifically She-Hulk or Werewolf by Night, where they are very one-off and relatively separated. And that's what people have been bitching about She-Hulk about. It's like, why isn't it's in the MCU? It should be connected. It was pretty connected the first 2 episodes. You had the Hulk in there, and now it's her story. It's her movie. This was this werewolf's one night, specifically over the course of a couple of hours.
Right.
It didn't need to expand beyond. But, and as you see in the tapestry writings on the wall at the very beginning, it lives in the world with the MCU's history. There are these heroes and obviously more mystical stuff. And even Man-Thing's origin, if they continue, and this is straight up from, like I said, I was watching New Rockstars earlier. Man-Thing had super soldier serum that he injected himself with, and then all of a sudden a multiverse portal opened up and he got hit with the rays of the multiverse or something and turned into this this creature essentially.
That's peak humor, Garth. I just really want to point that out.
I want to acknowledge some of the comments in the chat, Mike K saying that that Phase 4 philosophically is his favorite. The more I think about Phase 4, the more I'm thinking it's also my favorite. I don't want to, and I'm the king of recency bias, so that's also a thing.
I'm with you. It's expansive. It's the most expansive thing we've ever had from the MCU.
Right, and some of my favorite things, the things that made me vote the most.
I pointed that out. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Chris, but right when it started and they're walking the walls and Jack comes into the building, I pointed at the wall. I said, "Honey, that's gore." Not Christian Bale gore. That's comic book gore with the 2 tentacles coming off of his head.
Oh, I gotta go back and check that out. And the other thing, it's got about and talking about me saying it's oversaturated, and that's why I walked that back, right? Like oversaturate's not the word. It's just the amount of content and them essentially resetting. We have to reset everything.
It's dense. The space is getting really dense. I
Right.
think.
We're going to pull some characters back and introduce a bunch of new ones. And that's why they told us at Comic-Con, hey, yo, we got 2 Avengers flicks in the same year, 6 months from each other. We need people to fill those rosters. So it's for the better that we're getting all these new characters. And
Chris,
frankly, I'm loving it.
You can't just walk back saying it's oversaturated. You're actually going to need to write a letter, put a tweet out, and probably an apology video. To be honest, those are all the rage.
There's been too many of those going around. I don't want to add to that. I don't want to say it's oversaturated. That's my poor choice of words. It's just there's a lot of content, and trust me, I've been burned out by the Marvel stuff. It really got me around Doctor Strange Moon Knight time. But I mean, I'm back in it. She-Hulk is the best thing ever. Miss Marvel is the best thing ever. Thor was cool, and this Chiquino Werewolf by Night is rad as hell.
Hey,
like I really love this.
All this Marvel talk, I love it. If you guys stick around, which means Chris and people in the chat too, we do have a speakeasy coming up shortly after this, which is our everything show. We talk about TV, movies, whatever we've watched, and we've been to the theater this week. We've watched like 4 different shows. We got all kinds of things going on. I do want to talk about She-Hulk because we don't actually have a review show currently going, so this is our best chance to talk about it. But I do want to bring up before we kind of close out here, we got World's Biggest Geek, which I don't remember if I've seen you in the chat. If you're new to the channel, welcome, subscribe if you haven't yet. He said, hello there, wanted to ask you guys, how did you like the entrance of Man-Thing appearance in the special? I went from like a to like such a big smile so fast.
Yeah.
Like, the big hand comes, he's like, hey buddy. I was like, and Lauren looked like she was already emotional within like 5 seconds.
You could tell from the jump he was not there for the stone. He was there for his friend.
Yeah.
And the way they kept on referencing, going, the monster is down there, and they kept cutting back to him like, oh, he's there on a rescue mission. I see exactly what's happening here. Yeah.
My stupid ass, I thought that the monster that they were hunting was Jack. I thought it was that.
I thought they were tricking him there. What I was thinking was, okay, they're sending him in first, and they're gonna capture him and force him to turn into the werewolf and then hunt him.
That's what I thought. Yep.
For about 2 minutes, that's the storyline I was going with in my head.
When they went outside to like do the little like ribbon thing that they were doing, and you heard the roar from the inside, I'm like, okay, obviously it's not Jack anymore.
Right.
But the Man-Thing appearance, it was because the trailer kind of gave us an idea of how like imposing this creature is going to be.
Yeah.
But immediately making him personable, giving him a name, having him interact with Jack, that was best case scenario, and it was like what I guarantee what Lauren was thinking. Like this Ted guy is pretty cute, and I loved how him and Jack had their little rapport, and how sweet he was to Elsa later, in when she had interacted with him like Ted, and he's like, oh okay, you know my name, you're cool,
and he came back for his friend at the end too.
Yeah, even though he might not have needed him.
Right, yeah, he was done by then. Did you see at the very end there was the assistant guy, and he was like hobbling around the cage from on the opposite of Man-Thing, and then Ted walks over and grabs one of the bodies off the floor and just slings it over his shoulder and walks away.
Was it a whole body?
It looked like a whole body.
I thought it was just the cloak that dude was wearing, that Jack was wearing.
Oh, maybe that makes more sense. But it looked like, because it was Zoom. I was watching on my phone at work, so like it looked like he just grabbed a body and like slung it over his shoulder.
That was my first thought.
Time to go.
I'm like, did he just sling a body? But then I saw Jack wearing the cloak thing. I'm like, oh, he probably took that cloak off of one of the
That makes more sense.
Yeah, it's a little funny that DC's so disjointed that Marvel beat him yet again, because we had a limited Swamp Thing series, but as far as the DC canon goes, we've now had Man-Thing has come to Marvel before Swamp Thing.
What are you talking about? Swamp Thing had a whole series.
Not in the DCEU.
Wasn't it on like CW or something? And it got canceled after like 2 episodes?
I think it got canceled before it
before it premiered.
Like the week of its premiere, it was already canceled.
And
then it went to the HBO Max or CW Seed or something like that.
DC Universe.
Well,
that's what it was.
DC Universe first.
Yeah.
And then
Guys, remember that? Oh my god.
I had it. I watched the first season of Harley Quinn and Swamp Thing, amongst other stuff. It was the only way I could watch Constantine for a while. So yeah, I had the DC.
I didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I actually read comics on that app, so I mean, there's that. Anyways,
That sounded like the most appealing part to me at the time. But that's a
I
that's a
downloaded
different conversation.
Comixology and I read Red Sun. I think I read like one Superman comic and I just never picked it up that.
I'm sure what you didn't read was Werewolf by Night. So I'm glad that Marvel's stretching out and doing things like this. Like, who would have thought Moon Knight years ago? Oh, you were bringing up the fact that not everything needs to cross over. I want more Moon Knight, but I don't need Moon Knight in other things. I just want Moon Knight season 2, to be honest. Like, if we ever saw Oscar Isaac against something else, like, that's cool. But I'm invested in these individual and they're like, hey, She-Hulk's going to be Avenger now. That's cool, but like, I just want more Jennifer Walters, like, in general. So whatever you got to do.
I was going to say I wanted her to date more, but after this episode, I don't know if that's a thing. But I totally second that point. I want more Moon Knight. Doesn't have to connect. I want more Jack Russell. Doesn't have to connect. Just give me more of that supernatural without getting too Doctor Strangey. Like, give me more of that.
Midnight Suns, like Scout About keeps saying.
Yeah.
Yo, if they do, like, if they bring in like Johnny Blaze or something, or Robbie Reyes, or
we already got Donnie Blaze. Who needs Johnny?
Right. Jeez. Yeah, because the fans loved Donnie Blaze, didn't they?
Yeah, all did. But I mean, that's a good transitional point to let you guys know that we will be talking She-Hulk and all that good stuff in our next episode. I want to know in the comments after the video's done, let us know what you thought of the show. Do you want to see more specials like this? Do you want to see more from Michael Giacchino? What was your favorite parts? All that stuff. We always hop in the comments and talk with you guys. It's one of our favorite things to do. Also,
absolutely.
If you go to our community banner and scroll down through that, or on our Twitter, you'll see that there is a link to a Discord, and that's where you can talk about trailers coming out, movies, and all that good stuff. We are on that 100 times a day. Somebody's on there. We're always on there
all the time, posting all the stuff. Yeah, we got 8 or 9 people in the chat. We're gonna hop into Speakeasy. We're gonna start a whole new stream. But while you're waiting, give us like 5 minutes. Just refresh the page, leave a comment, like this video. If you're not subscribed, do that already.
We appreciate it. But thank you so much, Chris. Thanks for joining us on the Werewolf by Night
you already know
review. And we will see everyone here in just a few moments. Keep it real.